Welcome to the debate. Imagine standing in your basement, right, in ankle-deep water because a pipe just burst.
Oh, an absolute nightmare scenario.
Exactly. You grab your phone. In an absolute panic, you dial a local emergency plumber, and a robotic voice answers, "Please listen carefully as our menu options have changed. Press 1 for sales."
Yeah, and you hang up instantly.
You hang up. You immediately call the next number on your search results. And, that simple, frustrated hang up, it is a micro interaction happening millions of times a day.
Yeah.
And it is costing small and medium businesses billions of dollars.
It really is. It is what we might call the accessibility paradox of modern business. Because, we live in an era where you can order a car or transfer a mortgage with just a silent tap on a piece of glass.
Right. Zero friction.
Zero friction. Yet, when the situation is genuinely urgent, we still pick up the phone. In fact, despite all our digital infrastructure, phone calls still remain the preferred method for high-stakes issues. They're making up an astonishing 82% of customer interactions in 2025.
And here is the breaking point for businesses, right? They are missing up to 62% of these critical calls. So today, we are examining how enterprises are trying to solve this by moving away from traditional interactive voice response systems, those classic press 1 menu mazes, to modern AI voice agents.
A massive shift in the industry.
A huge shift. And I take the position that AI voice agents represent the ultimate scalable solution for business productivity, acting as a revolutionary leap in resolution speed and customer trust.
Right. And I take the position that while the economic promise is definitely tempting, the massive technical complexities and the sheer fragility of AI integration make traditional IVR and human-in-the-loop systems a much safer, more reliable baseline for the vast majority of businesses out there.
Well, let's ground this right away in the economic reality that small and medium enterprises, or SMEs, are actually facing today. Because we aren't just talking about a few missed voicemails here.
No, not at all.
We are looking at a $126,000 annual revenue drain that the average SME suffers simply from missed calls.
The numbers are definitely staggering when you look at specific verticals, I'll give you that.
Exactly. Think about a home service contractor. They are physically under a sink or up on a roof. They literally can't answer the phone.
Right, their hands are full.
Yeah, because of that, they are missing about 27% of their inbound calls, which equates to over $50,000 lost annually. Or take a dental practice. They are missing 32% of calls.
Wow.
Right? A single new patient might be worth thousands of dollars over a lifetime, meaning a dentist is bleeding roughly $5,000 to $10,000 a month in lifetime patient value, simply because the front desk was busy with someone else.
And callers today just do not leave voicemails. If they hit a machine, they just move right on to the next Google search result.
Exactly, which is exactly why AI voice agents fundamentally can't change this economic calculus. Let's look at the math for a second. A human receptionist costs about $3,500 a month, fully loaded with benefits and breaks. That breaks down to anywhere from $8.50 to $15 per call.
Okay, sure.
But an AI receptionist costs roughly $25 to $160 per month. That brings the cost per call down to between 10 cents and $2.10. And this isn't just a cheap voicemail system.
Well, it operates 24/7, reduces average handle times by 25 to 50%, and achieves over 90% first call resolution. So AI doesn't just route calls the way a rigid IVR does. It actually resolves the customer's problem.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. Those raw cost calculations completely ignore the reality of deployment.
How so?
Well, yes, on a spreadsheet, 10 cents a call looks like an operational miracle compared to $15 a call. And sure, the marketing brochures will eagerly tell you that an AI can handle 5,000 simultaneous calls without breaking a sweat. Because it can. That entirely eliminates the capacity bottleneck for a business.
But scale is a double-edged sword. If an AI cannot flawlessly execute complex problem-solving without adult supervision, it is simply scaling failure.
I think that's a bit harsh.
But it's true. Traditional IVR is highly reliable, it's incredibly predictable, and it's simple to deploy. It usually takes just 2 to 6 weeks. It effectively deflects and routes high volumes of calls at a very low cost without the inherent risk of an autonomous AI confidently giving a customer the wrong pricing or, hallucinating a store policy.
Right. Hallucinations are a concern, but
Or making a commitment the business legally cannot honor. A traditional IVR acts as a structural filter to get the customer to the right human. It does exactly what it is programmed to do every single time.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective on what a business system is actually supposed to do. You're praising traditional IVR for doing exactly what it's programmed to do, but what it's programmed to do is put a barrier between the customer and the resolution.
I would call it a traffic cop, not a barrier.
But look at the economics of getting that phone to ring in the first place. A business might spend over $130 on a single Google ad click just to generate a lead for, say, legal services, or $90 for a home improvement lead.
True. Acquisition costs are high.
Right. So when the customer finally calls, taking that $130 lead and dropping them into a rigid DTMF system, meaning those classic touch-tone keypads where you have to press 3 to hear more options, it is economically irrational. You are actively adding friction to a warm lead.
But the IVR ensures they get to the department that can actually close the deal.
AI voice agents don't just route them to the department, though. The AI acts as the closer. By answering instantly and understanding natural human language, the AI converts what would have been an abandoned call into captured revenue. You are framing traditional IVR as this reliable baseline, but I would argue that reliably frustrating your customers and reliably losing up to 62% of your inbound volume is not a baseline worth defending.
Okay, we have to distinguish between a missed call and a mishandled call, though. A missed call is a lost opportunity, absolutely. But a mishandled call by an AI, one that creates a false expectation or corrupts a customer record, is an active liability. You mentioned that 90% first call resolution rate earlier.
Yes, the data supports that.
Right, but that statistic highly depends on the narrowness of the task.
Meaning?
Meaning, if a customer is calling to ask for store hours, sure, the AI is perfect. But what if a customer is calling that same HVAC contractor to explain a nuanced, multivariable problem with their ventilation system? That requires diagnostic intuition. The AI hits a wall.
Well, it can escalate.
The traditional IVR doesn't even try to diagnose the HVAC system, though. It just asks the caller to press 1 for emergency service and then immediately pings the on-call technician's cell phone. It is a humble technology. And in business operations, technological humility is often vastly safer than technological hubris.
That's an interesting point, though. I would frame it differently. I wouldn't call it technological hubris. I would call it structural evolution. We need to talk about how these modern AI systems actually function under the hood.
Okay, let's get into the technical side.
The old analogy is that traditional IVR is like handing a customer a map to navigate a massive filing cabinet, right? But modern AI is not just a polite concierge fetching files. Think of an AI voice agent as the central nervous system plugged directly into a business's bloodstream via APIs.
See, that implies a level of seamless integration that most small businesses simply do not have.
But the platforms provide it out of the box now. We are talking about voice agents with over 2,000 native integrations into systems like Salesforce, HubSpot, standard scheduling tools. When a caller reaches an AI agent, it doesn't just listen. It instantly pulls the customer's history.
If the CRM is updated,
Right, and it knows who they are based on their phone number. It can securely process a credit card payment, and it can literally book an appointment directly into the technician's calendar in real time. It transforms the phone number from a static routing tool into a living inbound operating system.
I come at it from a different way. That nervous system analogy glosses over a massive, perilous technical hurdle, which is the latency path.
You mean the delay between the human speaking and the AI replying?
Exactly. To mimic human conversational speed and actually feel like a helpful agent rather than a broken robot, the AI architecture has to execute a monumental sequence of events in just a fraction of a second. Let's break down what actually happens when you say hello to an AI. First, it must process ASR, automatic speech recognition, to convert the caller's audio stream into text.
Right, essentially the system's ears.
Then, it has to run that text through an LLM, a large language model,
which acts as the brain to deduce the caller's intent and formulate a logical, accurate response. Finally, it has to synthesize that text back into audio, using TTS, or text-to-speech. All of this heavy cognitive lifting has to happen in under 1,000 milliseconds.
And just for context, normal human reaction time in a conversation is about 250 milliseconds.
Precisely. If an AI takes even 3 or 4 seconds to reply, what does a caller think? They think the call dropped. The conversational flow is completely killed. And, let's address those API integrations you mentioned. Achieving the 99% straight-through processing we see in polished enterprise case studies requires highly expensive, complex, bidirectional data syncs. Most small and medium businesses have incredibly messy CRM data.
Which is exactly what the AI fixes.
No. If your CRM data is messy, the AI is just pulling messy context into the conversation in real time. The integration risk for a local dentist or plumber to maintain that clean data pipeline is monumental compared to simply plugging in a standard touch-tone IVR.
But you're looking at the latency challenge as if it were still 2022. That was certainly a massive hurdle a few years ago, but the technology has moved to continuous audio streaming.
Meaning it processes while you speak?
Exactly. Modern voice AI doesn't wait for you to put a period at the end of your sentence to start thinking. The ASR streams syllables to the LLM in real time, and the text-to-speech engine begins generating the audio response before the LLM has even finished writing the end of the sentence.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how we are consistently seeing sub-1,000 millisecond response times today. And as for your point about CRM data being messy, traditional systems are the reason it's messy.
How so?
Human agents currently have to manually log call notes. The data shows they spend 10 to 11 hours a week just doing data entry. And even then, 91% of CRM data ends up siloed or outdated because humans forget to type it in or they mistype a digit.
Fair point on human error.
Right. A bidirectional AI agent extracts structured data during the natural conversation and writes it back to the exact database fields instantly. It cleans the operational data pipeline organically.
It cleans the pipeline, assuming it interprets the intent flawlessly. Which brings us to the elephant in the room, hallucinations. We have to remember that large language models are probabilistic engines.
They predict the next most likely word.
Right, they are not deterministic databases. To prevent an AI agent from hallucinating, you have to implement strict RAG, retrieval-augmented generation.
Let's define that for a moment. RAG is essentially like giving the AI an open book test, but you only give it your company's official employee handbook. So it can't just scour the internet and make up a refund policy. It can only pull answers from the documents you provide it.
That is a great way to explain it. But building and maintaining that open book architecture so that the AI doesn't confidently make up a medical procedure or promise a 50% discount, that requires constant, rigorous tuning.
It takes work, yes.
A traditional IVR is deterministic math. Pressing 3 triggers action C. It is mathematically guaranteed. When you replace a deterministic routing system with a probabilistic conversational system, you are introducing a non-zero chance of catastrophic miscommunication on every single call.
And for an enterprise to manage that risk, it requires continuous monitoring and sophisticated fallback logic that automatically transfers the call to a human if the AI's confidence score drops. The maintenance of that architecture is incredibly heavy.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning because it focuses entirely on the math and it ignores the overwhelming psychological reality of the customer experience. You are defending the deterministic safety of an IVR, but you are completely ignoring the emotional damage it inflicts on the caller.
Emotional damage is a very strong term for a phone menu. Is it? Let's pivot to the customer psychology here. Voice as a medium is fundamentally used for urgency. When we look at the data, 51.5% of call transcripts contain direct urgency indicators. Words like immediately, emergency, or today.
Okay.
Go back to the hook we started with the homeowner standing in a flooded basement. When a person is in a state of high emotional distress, being greeted by a robotic IVR telling them to press 2 for existing customers is intensely alienating.
It's frustrating, I'll grant you that.
It's why traditional IVRs cause 83% of callers to abandon the business entirely. They just hang up. AI, on the other hand, answers instantly. It uses empathetic, natural language. It can actually calm emotional distress
assure the caller that they are understood, and foster immediate trust precisely when the caller is most vulnerable.
That's a compelling argument, but have you considered the fragility of that trust? You are absolutely right that a person standing in a flooded basement is in a state of heightened anxiety, but I push back strongly on the idea that a machine can build true trust in that moment.
Why not? If it actually solves their problem.
Because what happens if the AI misunderstands the regional dialect of that frantic homeowner? Or what if, in a complex medical emergency, the AI attempts to handle the triage but fails to execute a graceful handoff to a human because of a split-second API timeout?
Those edge cases are rare now.
But they happen. While AI eliminates the 45 to 60-second hold time, in highly emotional, high-stakes scenarios, a human in the loop is strictly necessary. We know from the data that 34.8% of after-hours callers have direct purchase intent. They are ready to buy.
Exactly, which is why you want an AI there to answer the phone.
But if an AI hallucinates or breaks down during that vulnerable, intent-driven moment, the trust broken is irreparable. A caller might forgive a human receptionist for putting them on a brief hold to find an answer, but they will never forgive a brand whose AI confidently fumbled in emergency. The traditional IVR, for all its faults, never pretends to be empathetic.
No, it certainly doesn't.
It is clearly a tool. When an AI pretends to be human and fails, the uncanny valley effect destroys the customer relationship entirely.
But the data simply doesn't support the idea that customers are rejecting these systems because of some uncanny valley effect. In fact, 90% of callers willingly engage with an AI voice agent when they realize it can actually help them. And 70% complete their entire inquiry without ever needing to speak to a human.
That's quite high.
Modern AI agents are highly transparent about being digital assistants, yet they still provide the psychological relief of an immediate conversational response.
Assuming they don't hit a wall of complexity.
And if they do, AI systems are now equipped with highly sophisticated semantic routing. The AI isn't just listening to the words, it's listening to the tone. If it detects high stress, shouting, or complex medical terminology, it is programmed to execute a warm transfer to a human immediately. But here's the magic. It passes along a complete transcript and a summarized context of the emergency.
So the human agent doesn't have to ask, "How can I help you?"
Exactly. The human picks up the phone already knowing the caller's name, their history, and the exact nature of their burst pipe. That is the true intersection of automation and empathy. The AI acts as the ultimate triage nurse, ensuring that human agents spend 100% of their time exercising human judgment and empathy rather than acting as human routers, resetting passwords and reading off store hours.
I will concede that the triage capability, when it works perfectly with a warm transfer, is a massive operational upgrade. But we have to look at the regulatory and compliance overhead this creates for the business.
You're talking about data security. I'm talking about
Severe legal liability. If an AI is acting as a triage nurse, it is actively processing protected health information, or PHI. It is subject to HIPAA in the United States or GDPR in Europe because voice data contains biometric markers, the unique sound of your voice, and highly sensitive personal context. Processing it through an LLM requires enterprise-grade data sovereignty.
Which is standard for enterprise tools.
But not for the average SME. You cannot just spin up a cheap AI tool off the shelf. You need SOC 2 Type I certification, meaning you undergo rigorous third-party security audits. You need secure European data hosting if you have EU customers, and zero data retention agreements so the AI companies aren't training their models on your customers' financial data.
Right, the compliance piece.
Yes. If a traditional IVR asks you to press 1 for billing, it isn't processing natural language PHI. The moment you invite a caller to speak freely about their medical or financial reality to a machine, you take on a massive compliance burden. For many businesses, the legal and technical overhead of maintaining a compliant, hallucination-free AI architecture makes the simple, secure routing of a traditional IVR a highly strategic choice.
Look, the compliance architecture is certainly rigorous. There's no denying that. But it is entirely solvable.
And leading platforms already have HIPAA and GDPR compliance built in natively without requiring the small business to become cybersecurity experts.
Fair enough.
And he summarized my position as we wrap up. We are witnessing a fundamental paradigm shift in enterprise communications. AI voice agents represent an unprecedented leap in operational scalability. They solve the multi-billion-dollar problem of missed calls for SMEs, vastly reducing handle times and eliminating wait times. Most importantly, they transform a business's phone line from a point of friction where angry customers navigate endless touch-tone menus into a 24/7 revenue-generating asset that resolves urgent customer needs instantly and empathetically. The technology has matured far beyond the latency and integration hurdles of the past, offering an intelligent customer experience that traditional IVR can never hope to match.
And to summarize my perspective, I maintain that while the economic potential of achieving zero missed calls is undeniably attractive, the underlying architecture required to run these systems safely is vastly underestimated. Achieving a low-latency, hallucination-free, and legally compliant voice AI requires continuous monitoring, complex bidirectional data synchronization, and rigorous RAG frameworks. For enterprises with massive IT budgets, it is a viable path. But for many businesses, the operational risk of a probabilistic AI mishandling a high-stakes, emotional customer interaction is simply too great. Traditional, simpler IVR systems, combined with human-in-the-loop workflows, still hold immense strategic value because they offer deterministic reliability, total security, and operational safety for those who cannot afford to maintain complex AI integrations.
I think where we absolutely converge today is on the fact that the era of the rigid, frustrating, press 1 for sales, press 2 for support menu is rapidly coming to an end. Whether a business transitions to a fully autonomous AI voice agent or adopts a hybrid model where AI handles the initial triage before routing to a human, the expectation of the modern caller has fundamentally shifted.
I completely agree. The intersection of automation and human empathy will dictate the future of customer service. Customers simply will not tolerate being treated as a data entry clerk by a phone menu anymore. They expect to be heard, understood, and helped efficiently.
There is still much more to explore in the data, particularly regarding the specific multilingual capabilities of these agents, which opens up entirely new markets and how different industries benchmark their success. Ultimately, the listener must determine which system best fits their own organizational needs, their technical maturity, and their risk tolerance.
Precisely. The technology is here, but how you wield it will determine whether you build deep customer trust or burn it in a matter of seconds.
We started today talking about the absolute precision we crave in business and the messy, urgent reality of a customer picking up the phone in a moment of crisis. The question remains, when your customer reaches out in the dark, will they find a rigid maze or a voice ready to help? Thank you for joining us on The Debate.